Welcome guys to the Building Thriving Lifestyles podcast. This is episode number 6. I'm your host Eiki Lodottir, and I love to grow better humans by challenging myself and others. On today's episode, we are going to talk about how you can use your mindset and attitude to become more successful at the things that you're already doing. It's a must to kick this episode off with an inspirational quote, because who would we be without them? The kind of mind that you have today determines the life that you will live tomorrow. And I couldn't really agree with this more. If you've ever had a question on your mind, something along the lines of like, how do some people just seem to excel at everything that they choose to spend their time on, while other people, maybe like yourself, can't even manage to begin or simply just get stuck shortly after starting something new? Well, studies have shown that excellence has a lot to do with the way that you think about your own abilities and your own strengths and your own self-beliefs. And that, my friend, is all about your mindset and your attitude towards a challenge or a task. And before we dive a little bit further in, we have to start by looking at the two different commonly talked about mindsets, which are the growth and the fixed mindset. You have probably heard talked about them before, but let's look at them in the context of the episode that we're gonna dive into. The fixed mindset is the kind of mindset that your abilities and skills are fixed and integrated. It's like a package that you get handed at birth, and you're born with them and you can't change them. This is a mindset that you have a certain set of skill, resources, and a certain ability, and no matter what you do, you can only kind of harvest them, but you can't actually change them, develop them, or adapt them to other challenges. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is the thinking that any ability can be acquired and learned, and you can develop any skill, resource, and ability through hard work, determination, and by putting in some internal effort. Now, this sounds all really fancy, but what does this mean in the sport of CrossFit, where most of us find us? Or in fitness, this means that the person who says that they are quote unquote a weightlifter believes that they just have some skills within weightlifting and that they can never become better at body weight or gymnastic movements, and God forbid, they hate running and they will never be good at it. Does this sound familiar? This could also be the CrossFitter that hates running, or the bodyweight specialist that says, oh, I will just never get stronger. You have probably heard this before. We have this type in any CrossFit box, in any gym. We have that guy that stands in the corner and just says, no, this is not for me. I will never be good at this. Okay, but this is a very subtle way to kind of engage in this fixed mindset. So on a very unconscious level, people are saying, no, I wasn't born with it, I won't be good at it, without actually putting in the effort. And this leads to a very different behavior, because this attitude is very self-limiting. This is proven to kind of hold you back and not allow you to actually grow to your best potential. Growth mindset, on the other hand, is accepting and embracing the challenge and can lead to a very different result. Here are the good news for you, my friend. Your mind and your abilities can be trained. So if you were wondering which one is right, the fixed mindset or the growth mindset, it actually turns out that the growth mindset is the right way to go. This is really good news, because regardless of what kind of mindset you currently have, this also means that you can change your mindset. Neuroscience shows that our brain continuously changes and develops as we grow, even as adults. The brain can be compared to plastic, and a very modular plastic, because it tends to remodel over time. It forms new neural pathways, it adapts to our learning, we can adapt new skills, movements, strength, and all the rest of it all the time until the day we die. This is a term that science called neuroplasticity, and we're going to dive in a little bit more. Now, I know this sounds geeky, but neural pathways, they are developed constantly. Every single time we do a task, we are generating or maintaining a neural pathway. When we do new things, you can kind of think of this as like a trail through the forest, but the more times you walk that trail, the more it becomes easily accessible. And if you walk that trail enough, it turns into an 8-lane highway. And this is why repetition and consistency are so important when we develop new things, is because the more times you use a neural pathway, the easier it turns into that 8-lane highway. Now, neuroplasticity also means that despite what we are wired to say or do, we can still adapt it and change it if we really want to. So the first step to any change is the desire and the awareness that we want to change a thing. So once we have found an area that we want to improve, we improve through repetition, reflection, integration, repetition, 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 and more repetition. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is that if you find yourself with a tad and a hint of a fixed mindset on your athletic abilities or any other skills in your life, you can actually train your mind to become a better athlete. The growth mindset can help athlete and any everyday person to develop their skills and continue to thrive in whatever area of expertise that you would like to develop in. Imagine this, you can develop skills that are completely out of your wheelhouse just if you're willing to practice. And before we wrap up, we're going to look at how this affects you as an athlete on at least 4 different levels, just to make sure that you are on board with me that this is something that's important. On the first level, this starts to change your belief system. Having a growth mindset, it empowers you as an athlete and as a person to believe that your skill is a process of learning and something that can be done not by a snap of a finger, but with hard work and repetition. Athletes with this type of a mindset know that in order to improve, they must practice, 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 and practice. The second thing this affects is your motivation, and it actually leads to an improved motivation. Because athletes with growth mindset, they tend to be more motivated to work on their things than someone with a fixed mindset that believes that they cannot change the cards that they've already been dealt. They turn their passion and desire into continuous learning and growth. They're determined and intentional when it comes to turning their weaknesses into strengths. Third way this affects you as an athlete is by changing your attitude towards adversity and setbacks. Those with a growth mindset, they have the ability to thrive in even the most difficult circumstances. They keep their passion even in the face of countless failures, mistakes, and pivots. They believe that every mistake is a part of the process and their journey, and that adversity does not, or mistakes do not define them as a human, and they can still improve and continue to grow that given skill. The fourth and final one, which is a really important one, is that when you have a growth mindset, you become more coachable. You become more friendly and positive towards feedback, because feedback is not criticizing you, it's criticizing the skill that you've developed. And that is a huge one. So people with growth mindset, they see criticism as an important part of their growth journey and they welcome it. They take it more positively than a person that feels like you are criticizing the skills that they were born with. They understand that in order to grow, you have to seek the wise counsel of someone who is a little bit further along the path, and you welcome their inputs on whatever you're trying to develop. So where to start? Well, first of all, if I called you out in this episode and you realize that you are the weightlifter that hates running and has never wanted to run, I apologize for calling you out. But look, if you want to start changing this, the first thing to do is to start to become aware of where you're setting limits for yourself. And even though I might have a growth mindset when it comes to my education, I may have a limited belief when it comes to cooking, or someone who is great at cooking may have a limiting belief when it comes to fitness and say things like, I'm just not the person who. And when you catch yourself saying things like this, either to yourself or to your friend that you're discussing this topic with, call yourself out, or have a trusted friend call you out if you need help with it. Because once you start seeing those opportunities where you have a limited mindset or a fixed mindset, That's where you can start to change positively. And as we've covered, you can change your mindset easily. You just have to do it repeatedly. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there's one thing I can leave you with, it's this. Start by taking tiny, small, imperfect action and make sure it maximum takes you 5 minutes. But my best word of advice is do it now while you're feeling motivated. Because motivation comes and goes, and most likely you're gonna feel motivated right after you listen to this one. If you want more quick and dirty tips, make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening, and I'll see you next time.